Welcome to the first arena rotation in Saviors of Uldum. Today we'll talk about key cards you should play around in this new meta. In Arena, you can't play around every card, and this video is meant to improve your consistency by mentioning some of the most common cards you see. In this light, we'll avoid talking about Druid, Shaman, and Warrior cards since you barely see these classes in Arena right now. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the Tempo Storm YouTube channel to keep up to date with our Hearthstone content. Now, let's begin. Currently, Arena has a lot of swing cards. The mid-game feels the most impactful as plenty of key swing cards are in these mana slots. We'll mention the most significant swing cards starting with the neutral minions. Cards to take note of are Fungalmancer and Dragonmaw Scorcher. Fungalmancer means you have to fight for the board and prevent your opponent from having 2 minions going into turn 5. There are other similar fungal-like effects such as Neferset Ritualist and Quicksand Elemental, but these are typically less impactful. Meanwhile, Dragonmaw Scorcher means you have to avoid having multiple minions with 1 health. In both instances, you have to draft a good mid-game curve. From testing, we find having 5 good 3-drops, 4 good 4-drops, and 2 good 5-drops to be the key. Other than curve, having cards that deal damage from hand is also great. This is why cards like Fireplume Phoenix, Baited Arrow, and Weapons are super premium right now. Other than those 2 swing cards, we have Pit Crocolisk and Amani Warbear for late game. Because these cards happen after turn 7, it's usually very difficult to play around them. One reasonable way to play around Pit Crocolisk is being aware of your own life total. We've seen players that have no business losing the game but either use life tap or a weapon to take more damage than they should have, which costs them the game. This is easily preventable if you consider how prevalent Pit Crocolisk is in the meta. One final thing to note is how easily your opponent can deal 2 damage from hand. The neutral minions that do this are Fireplume Phoenix and Sightless Ranger. There are a ton of class cards that do this as well. Hunter is perhaps the best at this with 3 premium common cards at their disposal. Hunter is also capable of many other things right now. Other than expecting 2 damage from hand, you always want to kill beasts that hunters have on board. Crackling Razormaw gives them premium tempo, while Kill Command and Scavenging Hyena are fairly common in their decks. In terms of secrets, Hunter most commonly has Explosive Trap and Wandering Monster. This means you want to slow down if your opponent's trying to get value from these secrets. Develop stronger minions first before hitting their face. 2 common removal tools exist in the form of Hunter's Mark and Deadly Shot. We find spreading against hunters to be a fairly good strategy. Moving on to Mage, the most common swing card they received is Flame Ward. This secret is very difficult to play around considering mages also have Mirror Entity and Explosive Runes. If you hit the hero first, you risk losing the whole board. However, you also can't drop a large minion first as they could copy it with Mirror Entity. Because of how awkward this situation is, the best way to play around them actually starts at drafting. In most classes, you're no longer drafting a large amount of 2-drops. 2 mana minions should have additional effects other than just being a stat stick. Even the Mighty Snail is no longer an auto pick in this meta. Other than Flame Ward, you're always considering Flame Strike on turn 7. Flame Strike is even better now in this meta as it can completely shut down the mid-game minions you use to gain the board. Flame Strike is usually not a card you can play around often, but you're looking at avoiding a full board clear. Trade your weak minions in so bigger minions above 4 health can survive. Paladin is all about snowballing the board. Keeper of Uldaman and Aldor Peacekeeper are common tools to maintain the lead during the mid-game. Other premium cards they have in the mid-game are Unidentified Maul, True Silver Champion, and Divine Shield effects. On turn 6, Spike Ridge Steed and Pharaoh's Blessing can gain sizable leads if you're not able to clear their boards. It's perhaps one of the best classes right now to fight for the mid-game. Unfortunately, because Rogue is so strong and a natural counter to Paladin, the class is kept in check. Speaking of Rogue, the class excels at efficiently removing your board. Fan of Knives is by far the most common Rogue card, and you play around it exactly as you do with Dragonmaw Scorcher. If there's one takeaway message we have, it's knowing you cannot have a board filled with 1 health minions. Rogue also has a bunch of large removals. The most backbreaking is Plaguebringer. This new classic card is in such a low bucket that you end up taking it very often. This means clearing their small minions is very important to prevent the swing. You also want to avoid playing large minions on curve because you know the rogue has poor board clears. Spreading out with mid-sized minions is the way to go, but this is also why Betrayal has gotten very good in this meta. All in all, Rogue has a wealth of premium removal tools, which is why they're well above everyone else. Next up, we have Priest. This is yet another class that is difficult to play around since they have so many removal options. The most common removal spell is Entomb. Like Rogue, dropping a big minion on curve can be a bad idea. Unlike Rogue, however, Priest is way less consistent in fighting for the mid-game. They often require very specific board states for their Shadow Madnesses and Mass Hysterias. 4 attack minions are still awkward for them to deal with because only pain and death is in the pool. Like Scorcher, Holy Ripple is another source of a 1 damage board clear in the meta. Last but not least, we have Warlock. Demon Bolt is the most common large removal in Gul'dan's disposal. Many Warlocks currently are Zoo archetypes filled with 4 to 6 1-drops that use Demon Bolt as tempo removal. Once again, you're trying to prevent a fungal-like board state. At the same time, Warlock also has 4 different board clears that are each very different. Shadow Flame and Plague of Flames are not cards you can reasonably play around most of the time, which is why they're premium board clears. Hellfire is the most common board clear you can expect, especially if the opponent deliberately played slower than usual. And this wraps up our list of key cards to play around. Board states are more volatile nowadays, and you must consider the most common swing cards out there. Tons of games are decided by if Dragonmaw Scorcher kills a couple of minions or if fungal-like effects give you a sizable tempo lead. What cards have impacted your games recently? Let us know in the comments what kind of arena content you would like to see next. As always, like the video and subscribe for more quality Hearthstone content. See you all next time!